All right, coming to you from Urbana, Ohio. Don't ask why I'm here. Long story, but thank you for all our millions of our viewers here and all your patience. We've been gone for a while. We're back. We're back stronger than ever. We got a special, very extremely special, if you ask him, guest, Mr. Richard Barbara, member of the Florida Real Estate Commission, my attorney he's my ex-attorney now, but he's been my attorney for 16 years or so. Very good friend of mine. And then we have Mr. Cadillac. We're coming with you today is kind of interesting because it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Is really talk about. There used to be I don't know if it still exists, Richard. There used to be a little like a mail out that FREC would send out or the DBPR would send out of reasons why people lost their real estate license. I haven't seen it around, but it's pretty cool. Like you get it, and then you get to see all the crazy shit that realtors do. And to lose their license, and if they got suspended or revoked or et cetera, et cetera. So I know you've been part of some of these hearings. Is that what we call them?
Yes.
Yeah, of these FREC hearings, and one of the things that I call myself in this business is a purist, right? This is all I've ever done. All I'll ever do as far as being in the real estate business. So, I spend a lot of time educating realtors. We do a lot of classes. We do a lot of classes for free. Cadillac is basically a saint in the real estate education world. He spends his entire, a large portion of his life educating uneducated realtors. I always tell my realtors the bad news is that anybody could get their real estate license, right? It's also coincidentally the good news, because it's really easy to set yourself, I don't know, for whatever reason the word I'm thinking about in Spanish is not destacarse. What's the word I'm looking for in English now? I can't even believe I can't think about it in English now. To separate yourself from the pack. There we go. So it's one of those things that I think what we'll do today is really, I think what's the subject line we came up with, Cadillac? How to lose your license, how to lose your real estate license,
how agents lose their real estate license,
how not to lose your real estate license. Yeah. How about that? That sounds a lot better.
Sure.
So Richard, and I know that your frustration before you were a member of FREC, I know your frustration as an attorney and dealing with realtors. What is one of the things that you're seeing that the biggest reason why realtors are losing their license in today's world here in Florida?
There are first of all, when we say lose your license, there are different levels of penalty, if you will, right? Suspension typically comes before revocation, although I see plenty of cases where we go right to revocation. Suspensions are, I don't want to say they're more common, but you don't have to do as much to get suspended. You got to do a little more to get revoked. We admonish people routinely, and we assign, you got to take these, like continuing education, core classes. You got to sit at FREC meetings beginning to end, right, to see what happens there. So there are various, gradients of discipline, okay, that we impose. People normally get suspended or revoked for the same things. We see the same things. A big one, that's probably not one that you're thinking about, is failure to self-report. So if you suffer an arrest of any kind, or you're indicted, or you have some issue like that, you get a DUI, you have 30 days to report that to the department, after which some kind of case is opened, and sometimes nothing happens, right? And sometimes it's a big deal.
So how does FREC find out about that, though? Let's say you get a DUI or you get, I don't know, you get armed burglary, I don't know, something serious. And
you don't report it?
You don't report it, yeah. How do they find out about it?
So it's interesting. There are a couple of ways. As a general premise, right, we don't have any ongoing searching. Like we don't search licensee backgrounds just without cause. But believe it or not, you'd be surprised how many times it's self-inflicted. Like we had a guy the other day that was a licensed realtor. You know, he's an associate licensee. He's a sales associate, and he applies for his broker exam. And when that happens,
he got cute and wanted the broker license.
They check your background again, you know? And so I remember, man, that he came up, and I want you to know that he had no idea what was coming. Okay. He probably didn't even know why he was given a hearing, even though we sent a letter explaining why. But so he comes up, he was well dressed, he was informed, he looked the part. Like there was really no reason why he shouldn't get the broker license. And he came up like with that little like air, you know, hey, good morning, everybody, you know, like nice to see you. And the chairman of the commission is an incredible human. He's my mentor on the commission. He's a great guy. His name is Dick Fryer. Okay. And he's an older guy, salt of the earth. You know, let me put it to you this way, Jesus, you would love him.
All right.
Okay. You'd love everything about the guy. You'd love his politics, the whole thing. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And first thing out of his mouth is, now, son, I see here you had a DUI back in 2017. Did you self-report that? And right then I was like, oh, this guy, he fucked up. Right. I mean, he thought he was going to have an easy day. And so to answer your question, that's one way. You'll apply, right, for licensing. OK. And or, you know, you'll try to change your license about. Sometimes people go inactive. OK, any number of things, or more commonly, too, those people routinely also get a complaint. Okay, so people that are like, unfortunately, they're, you know, you see kind of like a little bit of a pattern. Like you know, it's very rare that you have like a one-off criminal issue, and meanwhile, your conduct as a professional is like above reproach. Okay, so sometimes you'll catch a complaint for something else. Somebody will file a complaint against you, and when it's coming up, then you know, then the department will start kind of looking into you, and they may find it. So. You know, but again, that's one way people get suspended, you know, or you know.
Well, yeah. So I got denied. So I'm nowadays everything is legal and everything is just up and you know, it's fine. But you know,
well, what you were doing is still not legal.
Cultivation of marijuana was absolutely legal.
Not without a license.
Well, there was no licenses available at that point.
Right.
So yeah, I was 18 years old. I thought it was a great idea. I was actually in Gainesville studying. I thought it was a great idea to cultivate marijuana. So I get caught.
So you entered the agricultural industry.
I was studying botany, basically.
Your foray into agriculture. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Horticulture. Sorry, I stand corrected.
So yeah, I but the thing is that actually, you know, when the police came in to arrest me, I was actually studying real estate. I was there to get my master's in real estate. Like that's what I was in school for. That's what I was working on. So it was always real estate.
Don't you need a bachelor's first?
Yeah, I mean, I was starting.
Right.
You know, that was the goal, to leave there with a master's.
Hey, how many times you heard of a guy that was a freshman in college talking about he was studying for his master's?
Well, obviously I'm not a scholar, but that was the idea. The idea was to start real estate. So I was, oh, sorry, I put mute there. So yeah, long story short, you know, I go before the committee, the FREC, and first time they denied me, you know, I was, you know, 18, 19 years old or something like that. You know, I was very ill prepared. I had to wait. You got to wait like 6 months, Richard? You got to wait 6 months to go back again?
It depends. I mean, it depends. I mean, they denied you. They really didn't like you, because usually the chairman has discretion to give you an opportunity to withdraw. Like if it looks like you're going to get denied, like and the chairman likes you, he'll say, listen, you know, I have my discretion allows you to withdraw, because if not, you have to say, you know, forever, anytime you apply, and they ask you, have you been denied licensing? You have to say yes.
Right.
So that'll automatically bring you before the board. But
well,
anyway,
the reason why was because it was so fresh. I mean, it had just happened. It had just
Right,
happened.
right, exactly. So they don't say, we don't give a timetable. It depends. Murder, you probably have to wait a long time. 19-year-old kid arrested in marijuana,
Yeah. So the funny thing is, the funny story here is that I go back 6 months later or something like that, and man, now I'm prepared. I'm awake. I know what to expect. I plead my case.
I'm awake.
I plead my case. I explain all the reasons why. I tell them the truth. Listen, I was there studying real estate. This is all I want to do. Which is the truth. Like you can tell by how long I've been in the game. This is what I wanted to do. Man, and all of a sudden they're like, well, motion to deny, right? And one of them goes denied, or yay or nay, whatever it is that you guys say, right? Yeah, that. And man, how many? So it's like one says no, and another one says denied, and another one. And I go, whoa, no, guys, stop. You can't deny me. They're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, listen, this is as good as I get. Like, I don't get any better than I am right now. Like, if you're going to deny me now, you're going to deny me for life. Dude, they break out laughing, right? And they give me my license.
That's hysterical, dude.
Yeah, they switch. I guess they saw the sincerity and the desperation in my eyes. Like, dude, listen, this is as good as I possibly get. This is it right here,
That's about as close to a Perry Mason moment as I've ever heard of.
You love going before Freck Cadillac. I don't know if you know this one, but one day I'm like in Disney, okay, which is like the extent and distance of my vacationing. So if I ever stop working, bro, I go to Orlando.
Yeah,
okay,
for like more than 4 hours away. 4 hours away is too much.
For like 2 hours or 2 days. And Jesus, of course, that day has an emergency. And he calls me. I'll never forget. I'm in the hotel room and he's like, hey, man, I'm applying for my broker's license and I have this question. It's question 1. And, I need to know what you think. And I'm like, all right. And he reads me the question. And the question's like, have you ever, okay, and by the way, I didn't even know this first story where he was denied over this precise issue. This makes you even dumber than I thought you were, which is really something, okay? So he says to me, he goes, the question is, have you ever been arrested, charged, implicated, in any kind of, state, federal, local crime, irrespective of whether you were adjudication withheld, convicted, this, that, even if you've been given a presidential pardon, basically.
Yeah, that's the part that really got you.
It literally says the word pardon in it. Now, again, he left out the whole. At the time, the last thing in my mind was that I would ever be a Freck commissioner. Okay, and so
last thing in my mind too, by the way.
I'm like, so what's the question? And he says, do I have to disclose that I got arrested for cultivation of marijuana when I was like 19 or whatever? And I'm like, yes, you have to disclose it. And he goes, yeah, but are you sure? Because I did this and I already have my license. And I'm like,
well, here's the thing. The real dumbass here is Richard, because the problem is that since he was on vacation, I called his partner. So
no. Hold on. I even told this guy, it says pardon. It says
presidential pardon.
So by the way, he doesn't like that answer. So he calls so I got frustrated because he wanted to convince me. Okay.
Oh, I don't remember what it was. There was some verbiage there there was something there that I was like, wait a second,
bro.
There was one thing. No, there was, because your partner too.
By the way, people get to us and they say this shit. They say this precise thing. So anyway,
I'm one of them. One of them.
Yeah, they're like, no, because I thought and this, that. And so, but anyway, long story short, he ends up calling my partner Hugo. Okay. And Hugo, who, again, I love him to death, like a play cousin. Okay. I don't know what he was out to lunch that day too. Okay. Because he somehow comes down with Jesus and he's like, nah, don't disclose it. Okay. Which, by the way, we hear that also. We hear my lawyer. It was so funny. Literally my first Freck hearing there, they were so happy to have a lawyer that's a consumer member. Okay. Because most of them are industry members. I'm a consumer member. Okay. So, they're like, oh, some kid gets up there and was like, no, I didn't disclose. My lawyer said I didn't have to disclose it. And the chairman's like, no, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Do we really have? He's like, I'm going to ask Commissioner Barbara. I'm going to ask Commissioner Barbara.
I gotta meet this chairman.
Are y'all out there telling these people that they don't have to disclose these things? And I literally was like, unfortunately, I have first-hand experience.
Your first case
lawyer telling a guy, and I literally told the story of Jesus in that FREC meeting, and they were all fucking cracking up. That anyway, he ends up getting a hearing. He puts no on the question. Of course, they find it. Okay, because we do an FBI background check. It doesn't matter if they tell you expunged, that's a lie. PSA, guys, expunged is a lie. It only counts if you're applying at the Circle K. Okay, if you're ever applying for like a good job, they're gonna find it. So anyway, Jesus ends up getting called for a hearing, and he goes to get his broker's license. He goes for the hearing, and he has to tell this story. So he gets up there, and that's the story he told, that, he gets up there and he's like, hey, I'm here because basically I'm a dumbass because, one of my lawyers.
I literally said that. I just said I'm a dumbass. So I'm like, listen, no excuse. I messed up. Like, I did ask my attorney, but it's my responsibility. It is what it is. I take full responsibility, and they gave me a breaker. So I've been to FREC 3 times.
Yeah, this guy's a FREC frequent flyer, bro.
FREC frequent flyer, Mel.
He loves it, man. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, hey, but
yeah, so they also get suspended for what I call, or revoked for what I call the Miami special, which is
Medicare fraud.
They're property managers.
Oh.
Okay, it's always the Venezuelan or Cuban, or it's the Latin client that has the Latin licensee that has the Latin investor client that lives far and away, and what turns into like, this going to be a great client for me, and they come in there and they explain it, and I'm going to manage 4 of their units, and this and that, and invariably tenants don't pay. And then obviously that, a gripe arises between the owner and the manager, and then the manager gets a check, he deposits it into his account, okay, by accident. I accidentally deposited it into the wrong account, and then landlords aren't being remitted their payments, and these things that you really shouldn't be doing without a license. I mean, there's a license for that as well,
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the Hispanic thing. Obviously, we're except for Mr. Cadillac, we're Hispanic also, so we could talk shit about.
Se habla español.
we could talk shit about our own people here.
I'm the token white guy.
Yeah, I think you're allowed because you're with us, so you can go ahead, Cadillac. And most of your girlfriends are Hispanic, so
that is a true statement.
Yeah, so I get that a lot, where I'll get an issue with a client, that doesn't want to pay commission, after he signed the contract, or I have a buyer, a seller, whatever, somebody who doesn't want to comply with the agreement. So I'm what I call the complaint department. I'll usually call them, and I'm like, look, you signed an agreement that you have to pay X, Y, and Z. You have to pay it. Well, no, I don't think I have to pay it. I'm like, let me ask you a question. I got flies in my room. Nice. Let me ask you a question. Where are you from? They'll mention, whatever country. And I'm like, okay, so why'd you come to the United States? Well, they stay quiet. I'm like, let me help you. You came here because there's rules and there's regulations. And when you sign a contract, it means something and everything like that. Well, I'm here to welcome you to the United States. Okay. When you sign, hey, I've done this call. Not once, not twice. This is my line, and it's worked every single time, okay? And I tell them, welcome to the United States. You are here because we have rules, and when we sign a contract, you have to do what the contract says. That's why you're in this country, because you love that, right? So here's what's going to happen. You're going to not believe what I'm telling you.
I hate to compliment you, but that's brilliant.
Right. Well, because it's the truth, though, because they're
really
absolutely going to use that. That's spectacular.
Right. When I teach on why the United States is as successful as it is, contract law, intellectual personal property rights, and title law, those 3 things.
Hey, let me tell you, Well, we should make a meme with Chris Bosch. You know that face that he makes where he's going of Jesus like telling that story when he whips out why you love the United States.
Why are you here?
I literally
Why'd you come here?
I literally say, welcome to the United. I'm here to welcome you to the United States. So I'm like, look, here's what's going to happen. Okay. You're going to call an attorney. You're not going to believe what I'm telling you. Okay. You're going to call an attorney, and an attorney is going to read this contract that I'm giving you. By the way, I've sent it to you and I highlighted the section where you owe me the money. Okay. And they're going to tell you that you owe me the money, and they're going to tell you that it's going to cost you more to defend this than what you owe me. Okay. So I'm not expecting you to believe, I'm not expecting to make a deal right now. Here's my number. I'm open to discuss it with you. Just give me a call back. Every single time they will call me back and make an arrangement. You know, it's one of those things, you know, I that stupid joke that I say all the time, you know, it's what's the best thing about the United States, about Miami, Richard? Do you know? I don't think you've heard this joke. What's the best thing about living in Miami?
I live here.
Yeah, well, obviously, besides that, that's awesome.
The obvious answer.
Yeah, that's besides the obvious answer. It's how close it is to the United States.
Oh, right. Of course.
Right. So, you know, it's one of those things that we have.
And all the rules apply. It's great.
Right? all of these cultures and all this what they love to call the melting pot. Let me tell you about that melting pot. That melting pot fucking sucks. That melting pot puts you on a mission every single day of the year. You know. Richard, back to reasons why they lose their license, right? Escrows, right?
Big one.
Right. So, man,
taking a deposit and depositing it, taking a check, you know, as a deposit and not putting it in an escrow account. Big.
Right. So we as a company, we've had our escrow account since day one. Since day one, we've never had issues. We've never had complaints. Again, back to the purist thing. If you forget that whole cultivation of marijuana thing, you know, aside from that, I am a model, especially when it comes to real estate. We just don't break the rules. I don't understand. Again, we've had an escrow account for 20 years, basically. I don't understand how people screw this up. You know, I don't understand like how you could just say, all right, well, this money, I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to put it over there. You know, what comes, what's in your brain if you think you could just get somebody's money and just keep it forever, right? So it's not just that they're late though, right, Richard? You don't lose or suspend your license for being late, right? It's more commingling of escrow.
Well, when you say late.
Well, late to deposit it.
No, but you got to understand the problem is when by the time it gets to us, so much time has elapsed that between the issue and the reason why it comes to us, that's where the agent loses control somehow. Okay, so if you make a mistake, okay, we recently had a guy that was suspended. We literally suspended the guy, or it might have even been revoked. I don't remember because he put no, it was suspended. Oh, and by the way, let me explain the process so you get an idea. Okay. When a complaint gets filed against you, it gets initially reviewed by the department and its lawyers, okay, on behalf of the department. If they think that there is sufficient, enough there to take the case forward, then they take it before a FREC probable cause panel, which is usually made up of 1, 2, 3 commissioners, sometimes even former commissioners. In fact, routinely, they rotate in former commissioners just to serve on probable cause, okay? And it's a 5-minute hearing where you're basically sent the materials in advance. That hearing is not open. You know, no one comes to that hearing. It's usually done by phone. And we have a recommendation from the division and the division counsel, and they say, hey, we reviewed it and we think there's probable cause to proceed. I can review it and I can determine I disagree and I can argue with them that day, and sometimes it can be dismissed that day. Normally, we agree with the department's recommendations that there's probable cause, and then the case proceeds. And when it comes before us at commission, the commissioner that was on probable cause has to recuse themselves. They don't vote on the matter that day, okay? That's an aside. After the case is found to have probable cause and it goes forward, they routinely will cut a deal. Like it only comes back before FREC because there's a stipulation that is being entered. Okay. So if you contest it, you're going to trial at DOA. I mean, that's for the real judges are over there. But we routinely get like a stipulation for settlement where the division, the prosecutors are literally saying, hey, this is the deal we recommend. And so we get everything. We get the file, we get the charges, we get the whole thing. And then we get a proposed stipulation. They send it to us. And we routinely find that the stipulations are too soft. Okay, so this one guy comes in recently. And by the way, there's counsel. These people usually have counsel, okay, or the ones that care do. So we see it. People who are like, they've given up on their license, and it's like, my real estate license, the least of my problems, I'm indicted. You know what I mean? In federal court, I'm going to the pen for a long time. I mean, usually those people aren't there, okay? At least not while they're dealing with that problem. They may come way later, you know? But anyway, we routinely will find a guy came in the other day that he's been a broker for a long time, and the check, was deposited in the wrong account. Okay. It just didn't make it into the trust account. Now, listen, who cares what the reasoning was? Like, what really happens there, boots on the ground, it's like, how can the check get put into the wrong account? I mean, listen, my office gets a lot of checks. I don't physically deposit the checks. Like I'm not out there confirming, right, on every single instance that the deposit's going into the right account. I trust.
Yeah, but have you ever put one into the wrong account though? Because I haven't. We have not. And in 20 years in the business, hundreds of checks a month, we've never put it into the wrong account.
Let me put it to you like this, okay? I don't know.
Okay.
I assume that the answer is no, right? Because thank God there's never been an issue. Like this guy whose case came before us, it didn't start with a complaint at FREC. Like something happened when it was discovered that the money was in the wrong account. And then there was something other than an immediate correction of that, right? Such that the client found out and something got screwed up along the way that created a bigger problem that resulted in the complaint that then you're coming before us to explain, like the mistake. So, I think that there's two things. People do make mistakes. We can tell when they're genuine mistakes, typically. Okay. And the commission is good about that. At least in my time there, I found that they're very understanding of people that make mistakes, especially since I've been there. There's a commissioner, God bless him, he's about to rotate off, is a guy named Guy Sanchez. Great guy, industry member, United States Marine, but a Marine that knows like the code of military justice. He knows all the rules. He knows how many fucking shoe shiners he can have in his foot locker. And by the way,
never has an unlocked Foot Locker ever.
Listen, and the guy does not play. Like if you get that question wrong, the one that you answered wrong, he votes no 99% of the time. You get up there and you're like, even when you get up there and you're like, hey, I made a mistake and I'm sorry, I misread it. The guy's like, yeah, I know you misread it. And you know what? In this industry, you got to read it. If you misread the contract, you're going to put a consumer in a bad spot. And my job's to protect the consumer.
He's right.
And listen, and he's like, so I can't support this application. He's not very technically. And I'm the one that routinely is like, filling out the application wrong is not really a basis for denial where we are. That's not within our power. There's a test for that. They got to go pass a test. I realize that the test is anybody can pass it. Okay, but that's a separate issue. So and by the way, I'm like, dude, I'm not surprised. No one can read. Okay, and by the way, have you seen that question? The other day I'm on the record going, it's this big and has no paragraph breaks. Okay, it's the longest run-on sentence in America. Okay, so people's eyes glaze over. They're on line 4 and they're like, have you ever? They got to go back. They like no one can get through the whole question.
You need to put a ruler.
Yeah. So it's and so what's funny is the response I got from the director after was like, so we're gonna nominate you to help write a new one. And I was like, oh, I was like, shit, that's what I get for talking. They're like, hey, you want to talk? You can help. Right. So, so we understand when it's a mistake. And by the way, oftentimes it's not a mistake. People they're in a tough spot. They're going to play with other people's money, and they're going to try to cover the problem before it gets out of control. And it's like juggling, man. It's like juggling, but with like 8 balls. Okay. It's very hard to do. And eventually you're going to drop one. And when you drop one, you drop them all. you know, and so it's like you see the house of cards kind of come down. But yeah, you know, it's interesting. And by the way, anybody, you know, remember when, by the way, Cadillac, when this guy got denied his broker license, I recommended at that point that he hire a lawyer. Okay.
Who did I hire? I forgot.
No, you didn't hire anybody. You went.
Oh, I went by myself. You're right. I said, you know what? I don't need a lawyer. I'm gonna go talk to somebody.
Right. So I recommend.
I was pissed off at you guys. I was actually pissed off at you guys. I'm like, you know what?
So I recommend
you guys. I can do it on my own.
You'll love this. I recommend a guy who's a friend of mine, a guy I respect heavily. He's an excellent lawyer and he's an incredible writer. Okay, author, published author, incredible blogs. Guy's name is Brian Tannenbaum.
Oh, Jesus.
Brilliant lawyer.
Oh man, I don't know with him. No wonder, right?
And listen, and an incredible writer. I mean, his prose is spectacular. Okay, and so I introduced him to Jesus, and he quotes Jesus 10 grand. Okay, to go to Orlando, and Jesus was like insulted. He's like $10,000 against fucking hearing everybody do this myself. Blah blah. Like, you know, like he went bananas. Now listen, I'm realizing now that I think I can make a very I can have a nice practice representing people before Freck when I'm done. I mean, it's amazing. I see other lawyers that do it now. There's one guy, his name's Danny Villazon, that he comes up and I'm like, okay, this candidate is going to have excellent representation because Villazon just knows like the rules and what to say and this and that. He knows every commissioner. He's very prepared. So he picks up on what the commissioners say. And, you know, so it's like that kind of thing does matter. If you're eloquent, prepared, and sincere, and I do mean prepared, then sure, many guys come before us like Jesus does, and you'd be fine, okay? But when you have a few chips stacked against you and you're not prepared.
Well, remember, I had chips. I had chips because I was denied. I was already denied. You know, now I have another.
No, I would not have advised you to go by yourself.
Right.
But then again, and I didn't, but you wiped your ass with it. Luckily it worked out.
And I got it done. I got it done because you know what? I remember now, the amount for him to go to Orlando for a, 30.
The thing is that at the time you couldn't appear by phone. I mean, but the reality is to go all the way to Orlando for 2 fucking days, annoying. But
he would have been 1 day.
Yeah, 1 day.
But whatever. So escrow, obviously, commingling of escrows, that's a revocation thing, right? So what charges, what background, criminal backgrounds do you automatically say no to? Is it fraud? So what is it that you get an automatic denial if you go before the
well, there's nothing. Well. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say automatic denial. There's no such thing as an automatic denial, and we'll review every case properly, and we'll give every applicant, the look that they deserve. Okay, as a general premise, crimes of dishonesty are severe, and the hill you have to climb to overcome them is severe. Obviously, the bigger the fraud, Now, when I say crimes of dishonesty. You stole a Kit Kat when you were 19, from the 7-Eleven, probably not the end of the world, But, we see a lot of South Florida applicants, massive numbers of South Florida applicants, of course.
Medicare fraud.
Healthcare fraud, wire fraud, identity theft. And these things go to the heart of the profession. You walk into people's houses, there's credit cards lying around, you see their mail, you pick up their mail and things like that. So, those things are problematic. Obviously federal indictments are more problematic.
Mortgage fraud. Yeah, I had a old friend of mine that committed mortgage fraud.
We get plenty of those too.
And I see him at a party. He hadn't gone into jail yet. He hadn't gotten served. Sentenced yet. He was out. He was going through trial, going through the whole process. And I see him at a party, and he tells me, I kind of thinks it's funny the whole mortgage fraud. He kind of dismisses it if it's not a big deal or anything like that. And I'm like, dude, you this is what I do for a living. People like you that are coming in here just to step into this business for a minute, make as much fraud money as you can, and then leave this business in shambles. I don't think it's funny, man. You might think it's funny, and I lost a friend over that because it was a little bit more rated R than what I'm saying right now. But I was pretty pissed off at him, that he thought it was funny. So, you get these people that come into this business, and the lifers like myself, we respect it because, again, this is what we're gonna do for the rest of our life, But you get these people that are, and that's the issue, Richard. Is there any talk of change of licensing requirements to make it a little bit more difficult to get the license, or, because Texas, for example,
yeah, it's impossible. It's like very difficult.
It's like a college. It's like you're going to college and get a degree. Is there any talk of that or any change of that in Florida?
I mean, yes and no. We talk about it. I kind of went on a rant at the last meeting because we had every so often we have what's called rules committee. Okay. And that's a third day of FREC. And so there are a few rules that we, open them up for modification. The public is advised, all the licensees are advised, and the public is advised. So believe it or not, many people show up and they get on the call on the Zoom, okay? And the brokers primarily go, okay? And also educators. Lots of like the owners of like the big schools up, especially up north, they show
up.
Cadillac
will be there next time.
They show up at the meeting to talk about what they think about the changes and to make suggestions. It's not because we publish like the proposed text for changes and we open the floor, people have an opportunity to come up and talk. And so there was some of these recent rules we dealt with, there were licensing related issues and fees, like fee issues, how much you have to pay and this and that. So there are a couple ways, I don't want to say to deter, but there are a couple things that make becoming, getting some kind of license harder. Number one, the higher the fees, it's usually a bar, which you don't like to do it that way. It's not the best way to vet.
I agree. I don't like that.
That's not actually a litmus test for quality.
Agreed. So, and by the way, the fees by and large are incredibly cheap. Even the disciplinary fees, okay, are incredibly cheap in Florida. And by the way, we adjusted those. So now disciplinary fees are going to be increased across the board. So if you suffer penalties, if you do things wrong, right? And you're found guilty or you plead guilty, the penalties will stiffen. In terms of making the exam harder or more hours and stuff, it's hard. I mean, we had a lady up there that was talking about how the rule, like the 60-hour course that is required currently, you can miss like up to 8 hours of classroom time, and then if you have some kind of emergency that you can't sit for the test, then you can get a rescheduling, but the reasons are few, okay? In the rule, the reasons are only like illness of a family member or yourself or like something else. It was like 2 examples, okay? Or 2 specific excuses. And so people come up, like right now, the trend, and we talk about it all the time, Jesus, is about making things even easier, okay? And how that rule affects people differently because nowadays you can take these courses online. And so, you have to take the makeup exam within, or you have to make up the material within 30 days of when the material was presented. But if you take the course online, it's a different time period and this and that and the whole thing. And man, I just got so fed up with the efforts to make things easier that I literally addressed the room and I was like, let me explain something to you. This concept of making life easier for people that we're seeing across the board is not good. Okay, no. It's already incredibly easy to become a real estate licensee. I was like, I went to law school, which by the way, I'm not suggesting is a big deal. But what I'm telling you is when you go to law school, there's one exam. And guess what? The professors tell you, you don't have to come to class. Okay, so this notion about wanting people to, you don't have to come to class, but the professors who say don't come to class, those classes are the most well attended. And if come exam day, you don't take the exam, listen, you didn't take the exam. There's no makeup exam. There's no midterm exam. There's no excuse. And by the way, these are people that are going, the bar exam, they give it twice a year. If you miss the exam, there is no makeup exam. And this is for people that went to school for 3 years, not 3 days. So, you want to bend over backwards for people that go to school for 3 days, 60 hours, 3 days, and no, we're going to make it easier. So it's crazy. Most states have much more difficult licensing requirements. North Carolina is another one. By the way, we just got into a reciprocity deal with North Carolina. So you guys,
that's cool.
You can all be North Carolina licensees and vice versa.
That's actually where I want to retire. That's where I would live if I wasn't stuck here in Miami.
The thing really is, more so than anything, that is the issue. Because if we're going to take and break out what the thing is that determines whether or not an agent can make it, it's whether or not they have the self-discipline to do what they set out to do. And so if you don't have the self-discipline to show up to class, let me do you a favor. Let me not give you a license, because you're just going to be one more of those people that come in, screw a bunch of crap up, and then leave. I mean, realistically, we have to look at what the actual duties, what the actual job they're going to be asked to do is, and set them up with a system of education, what the requirements are that are going to enable and weed out the ones that don't have what it takes to do that job.
Yeah.
Like, answer your friggin' phone.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, there's no way that's the thing. There's no way to monitor that. But Richard, another thing, before I forget, and one thing that I might even start. I'm such a nerd on this stuff and cleaning up the real estate business here in Florida that I might start showing up to those things. So you don't find it concerning that that during the exam, the real estate exam, licensee exam, they don't go over contracts and submitting an offer and handling escrows as far as where you. Let me tell you. I have many examples, but I'll give you one example. There was an offer that I received on a listing of mine a while back, and I could tell. So it was a $200,000 condo or something like that, nothing crazy, and the first deposit was $60,000. Right. What I come to find out is that the girl did not know how to fill out the contract, right? And instead of she thought the down payment went there. So she confused down payment with deposit, right? And put it on there. I call her up and I go, listen, I don't want you to think that I'm making this phone call here to try to recruit you. I'm calling you because if I was a bad guy, if I was like the rest of Miami was, I would accept this offer, wait for you to fuck up on the contract, because you're definitely going to fuck up on one of the dates. You're either not going to give me the commitment on time, you're not going to give me anything on the inspection period, and your client is going to lose $60,000 because you are not educated on filling out a contract and submitting an offer and how the contract works. I find it concerning that I'm the one that has to teach, the contract and how it works and what's an offer and what's a counter offer and what are the dates. Like, what does it mean if you have an inspection issue and you don't tell them and you don't let the other side know that you have an inspection issue on time? What happens?
Hey, Jesus, I think it winds up boiling down to, maybe Richard, you tell me if I'm dead wrong about this, but it could be. It's almost a self-importance issue in the sense that if you look at what the body of the test is, it is basically a test written by the people that make the licensure law on the licensure law, not on the actual industry that you're going to be functioning in. So like when I go to take my general contractor's exam, right, there's questions on actual construction because they actually expect me to do construction. In fact, when I take my general contractor's exam, there's a whole separate day for just business. As in, do you know your contract? Do you know how to keep the books? Do you know how to keep records? Because they actually expect me to run a construction company when I have this license. And that doesn't, I will say this, the general contractor's exam is an open book exam. there's 26,000 books, but it's an open, I mean, you have to have a container on wheels to carry the books in, but it's an open book exam. But you can at least reference, you know where the material is, and you can reference it if you have a question. The problem is there is this idea that I always say the state license test is a test to teach you how not to lose your license, not a test on how to do the job.
Right.
And so until they bridge that gap, people like me that teach the boots on the ground, we're always going to have a place, because agents come in, because the industry has changed. It worked 30, 40 years ago when it was a 50-50 split with brokers. It worked because the broker had the time to do the training with the agents they had. But agents want these tight splits. So what is most brokerage business now? The reality of it is it's really, really small splits or 100% shops where the brokers are working on the small margin, and their job is to just bring in as many warm bodies as they possibly can to take and turn the till.
Let me add to that, Cadillac. That's a phenomenal point. So, Richard, just so you understand, because again, I'm basically trying to I'm basically talking to Freck here, even though I'm not, right? So we have a test that does not cover the business in itself, like how to operate in the business. And then we let them out into a world where half the companies are these 100% commission companies, that their model is, right, hey, I'm going to give you 100% commission, but I'm not going to do shit. I am not going to educate you. I am not going to prepare you. And they literally say, because I get people from 100% companies all the time, they'll tell you, hey, don't call me. You're getting 100% split. And now there's no restriction. Maybe they should say, well, on the first year, you got to go to a company that gets you trained. You can't go straight to a 100% company, but obviously it's impossible to get done, right? But we have and then they say, well, why is this industry going to shit a little bit, right? It's well, again, you get your license not knowing anything about the business. You go straight into a 100% company that specifically their model, their business model is do not train you, just get you out there and get 100% of your commission. Dude, how are we not going to have issues where clients are losing deposits? How are we not going to have issues where people are purchasing a house with no property disclosure statement or material defects not being disclosed, things like that, So,
well, it's falling on the local board of realtors to bridge the gap. Because it used to be people like me, people that wrote courses and speak, they would get booked by brokers to come in. Like I do classes for you, Jesus, but you are an outlier. All right. It's not common. I think I've had it happen one other time anywhere else. Right. Where I get booked by a broker to say, come in and train my agents. Otherwise, it falls on the local board of realtors to take and bridge that gap for the agents. And the agents, the only reason they're showing up most of the time is not they want the particular information. Most of the time, they have a 14-hour commitment they have to fill. Now, 3 hours of that is going to be ethics, which, look, I have no problem with ethics. But if you have no idea what the hell you're doing, you could be the most ethical person in the world and still screw crap up because you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Right.
And so they actually they made that ethics rule to try to bridge some of the problems that they're having with agents. But I think it's ignorance more than it is ethics problem. I mean, obviously there's ethics problems besides, but if you're not an ethical person, me sitting there telling you how ethics helped you have a better life and what the code of ethics is. And, it's nice, but if you've made your mind up that, hey, look, this is the shortcut. So, I mean, I come at it from the standpoint that, there needs to be to my mind, there needs to be an understanding on the side of the folks that make the requirements for either continuing education or licensure, what the specific areas, the areas that you mentioned, the contract, so, you have your legal update, but again, they don't get into the contract and like, hey, this is what the contract, don't screw this up. You can have
a FAR bar contract, right? So we have a FAR bar contract. The
FAR bar and a FAR bar as is contract.
We have two, call it a regular FAR bar and a FAR bar as is, right? Let's call it. And they don't teach it in the class. Richard, I mean, are we off here? Are we crazy? Is this insanity?
No. First of all, the state doesn't do any teaching. What you're saying is they don't test what you want. Like
correct.
It's not in the test curriculum.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, that's what I meant.
So, I mean, listen, in law school, they don't teach you how to fucking file a lawsuit. Okay, you come out of school.
Yeah, but you go to school 4 years, 5 years for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. They don't, you come out and it's like, in fact, just like there are, continuing education courses, right, that Cadillac offers, there are what we call electives, right? Like just like in college, just like in any other, higher ed form of education, there are electives. And then now, if I were talking to young law students now, I would recommend electives that are not the electives I took as a general premise. Okay.
What'd you take? Basket weaving, stuff like that?
No. But you do things like, like you do these seminars that'll be an elective and it'll be like on some vague principle, or you'll do a seminar on one case and its implications, or you'll do sports law, so it's like you waste your time taking sports law because you think you want to learn about like your current lawyer. Okay. He can tell you all about collective. Are you
going to shit on my current lawyer?
Yeah. He knows collective bargaining agreements. I've never read a single one, but he took a class on that. So he knows how they work and the whole thing in sports because, he wanted to do that when he was in school. But you don't end up using that. Whereas there was a class that was taught at Stetson that was called pretrial practice. And I never forget, the professor was called, her name was Dorothea Bean. Okay. And that class, I would hear it from lawyers that were practitioners. Back then, I would be like, you should take pretrial practice. And I'd be like, that sounds horribly boring. Why would I ever take that? But it's like, it teaches you, like, it's
what you need to know.
It's everything before the trial, So what happens is, as requirements, what do you got to take? You got to take property, you got to take con law, you got to take contracts, you got to take civil procedure, criminal procedure. These are the things you have to study. And none of them teach you, you come out and you see the memes now, it's hysterical. Wow, Nick and I follow these lawyer pages and we die laughing all day because you see like there's one where it's like, you see like a guy like this and he's looking at his computer and standing above him is like this other guy and he's got like this look, and it's like, pointing at the stupid guy is like me who paid $150,000 to be a lawyer. And then it's like the paralegal showing me how to do my job. And she's got like this face, and it's like, that's just kind of the way, unfortunately, that gap in education between theory and practice is a hallmark of education.
Yes, it is.
It's like our famous argument, Richard, when we first started doing business together and you would, and we would get in an argument. I'm like, listen, bro, I've been in the real estate. I was in the real estate business when you were still doing keg stands in college. You know what I'm saying? It's with those people that are in the field and they're actually doing it, like the paralegals, right? They're actually doing it. Yeah, they'll know more than an attorney a lot of the times. And then what we get a lot, Richard, since we're going to talk a little bit of shit about attorneys, is you'll get an attorney who's a divorce attorney getting into the real estate world. Mm-hmm. Right. And then he knows everything about this. No, you don't know. You might know everything about divorce, but you don't know anything about this. So whatever. I don't want to go on an attorney rant, but what were we talking about? Oh, education. So Richard, no chance that we could start adding tests, the contracts, contract testing. And I just, it's just, we're going to continue to have these issues, man, with these realtors. All right, Richard, and you got one more major reason why people are losing their real estate license?
Man, those are the ones
losing a client's deposit. Like we just mentioned right now on a contract, you didn't.
No. Anything having to do with escrow is a big deal, and if you lose the money, that's a disaster.
Right. So you don't know the contract. You didn't fill out the contract correctly.
No. You mean that as a function of some negligence of the agent?
Yeah.
A buyer loses a deposit or a seller loses a deposit?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes, but that's more rare. Okay. And by the way, this is a good thing. Okay. So that you understand. Okay. Lawyers have the same phenomenon. Okay. Licensing issues in the rules that regulate the Florida bar, there is a competency rule. Okay. You owe a duty of competency to the client. Okay. A mistake that results in like a lost case or something like that is rarely, okay. It can be, but it's not commonly a reflection of incompetency such that you should lose your license. Same thing in the real estate business, especially since we're talking about an already incredibly low level of competency required. Like they can't get much dumber. You don't even have to speak English. Okay. I mean, like we license people. You think about it. You send people out of your office every day knowing that they don't speak the language, and you're having people that you know don't speak the language fill out contracts on behalf of buyers. I mean, maybe you should be responsible, especially since you know better.
Well, listen, let me tell you something. Another thing is that
hold on. But let me answer your question. So the reality of the matter is that for mistakes like negligence, what do we have? How did we meet?
Oh,
You just brought this up yesterday.
Yeah, we
right?
met.
You had an E&O claim.
Errors and omissions claim, yeah.
Right, that's
my
right.
Only one in 20 years, by the way.
Right, so when you make a mistake, right, and you're insured against negligence.
By the way, I didn't make a mistake. It was hard to prove I made a mistake. But go ahead. Yes, no, not whatever. But go ahead.
When doctors, lawyers, brokers are accused of some form of negligence, it cannot be purposeful, right? Because insurance doesn't cover purposeful bad acts. But if you make some kind of mistake, negligence, there is insurance coverage. Our mechanism for making people whole is hopefully there's insurance. And if you made a mistake, the insurer is going to stand up there for you. Okay. Me personally, that's not a common basis for suspension or revocation. It is in egregious cases. We just had a guy recently that had that problem. He never deposited the check, okay, which is a different issue. And then the deal went sideways, and then the buyer walked, and then the seller was like out that deposit money. Okay. And then the guy coupled that with some other ridiculously bad conduct. Because remember, you got to be a somewhat educated consumer. You don't necessarily know that's a problem. Okay. So the situation deteriorated to the point where a complaint.
Did he offer an escrow letter? Did they ask for an escrow letter?
I don't know. I don't remember the specifics, but the point is that in that instance, yeah, the seller was out the deposit, but that wasn't the main reason. Like our rationale for suspending or revoking the guy wasn't, oh, the seller lost, like because of your mistake, a party, did not get the benefit of the bargain somehow. That's not what FREC is for. It's more about, conduct that is a violation of like licensing, rules.
Interesting. All right. Well, listen, in summary and listen, I want to say that whoever's listening to this or whoever's watching this is somebody who actually cares. And I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm one of these people that really, wants to educate realtors as much as possible to avoid any issues. Mm-hmm. For our reputation for the reputation of this business. So, guys, answer the phone. I think there's an ethical issue with not answering the phone. You guys are selling somebody's property, and you're not answering the phone. You're not answering emails. You're not answering anything. There's an absolute ethical issue there. You don't lose your license for ethical issues, I don't think, Richard. But still, it's something that we need to do better. We need to do better.
Bad enough.
Right. And for realtors, my advice for realtors that go out there, just get their real estate license. Don't go to us. Don't come to my company. I don't want you to think that I'm trying to recruit you, but definitely go to a company that's going to train you to make sure you know how to fill out those contracts, to make sure you know how to submit an offer, make sure you know how to handle a counter offer, understanding the dates. We see Richard and I see issues all the time where, realtors, they had an inspection issue and it was a 10-day inspection and it's day 12, and commitments, commitment letters, and how you handle the financing, how you handle extensions, right? How you handle extensions the right way. All of those things are more important than the majority of the stuff or all of the stuff that you learn in these schools, in these real estate schools. I'm not going to mention any by name because there's a lot of good ones, but so guys, educate yourself. You learn. I like what Richard brought up. There's people that show up to these hearings to learn, Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super cool.
Sometimes we make them sit as like a part of like a discipline taken against their license. It's open to the public. There's actually a public comment section of each one, so you can listen and then make comments at the end. And then on the rule committee workshop days, people show up to give their opinions and things.
Again, if you care about this business, I'm definitely going to go to one of those things. I think it's cool. I might even go to a couple of them. I think it's super important that people, just understand the business and understand what could make this industry better. So, educate yourself. If you care about this business, educate yourself so you can be a professional. It's also going to make you more money. You shouldn't do it because of the money, but it's also going to make you more money if you set yourself aside from these unprofessional realtors that are out there. And
it's beyond
I don't know.
that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's beyond that, man. It's beyond that. I mean, the reality of it is the bar needs to change, and it needs to change from the standpoint of we need to stop teaching agents to close commissions. They need to start closing customers for life. All right. If that customer is not thrilled with the job you did by the time it's done, you have earned a check, which is what an employee does. If you haven't closed that customer, so that customer's not out there singing your praises and bringing more business in, all you've done is earn a paycheck, and that's employee stuff. When you're in real estate, you have your own business. You're your own boss. And for me, it's all about closing customers for life. You close those people in such a way they would never do business with anyone else again. And that is absolutely in keeping exactly with what you said. You need to know your stuff, and you need to let your customer know your stuff, and you're looking out for them. If they buy into that, we have a much, much better industry. Period.
And you got to pick the right companies. Literally the call. I had a call at 10:50. We started this podcast at 11. It was a realtor of mine that left to another company, 100% company. And she called me apologizing that please, she wants to come back, that it was a huge mistake of hers, that she has no support, that everything was promised to her was again, pick the right company. Don't pick mine, right? That's fine. Pick the right company. You pick the right company. There's plenty of time for 100% companies, right? Right now, you need to pick a company that's going to train you, that's going to get you ready for the industry, that's going to care. Just like attorneys, how long, Richard, how long you guys are supposed to go work for a bigger company? Is there a time, or is there a recommended time where you guys kind of figure it out? Or, how does that work for attorneys?
There's no time. I mean, I left a big firm after about a year. Looking back, that was a mistake.
Yeah, but you practiced with me. I was your guinea pig, so
Yeah, right. But well, we don't always get so lucky to get a guinea pig like yourself.
I was actually client 001, kind of I don't know if you knew that, but
I did not.
I found out like 10 years into us doing business together that I was literally
you were patient zero.
I was client 0001. I was like, what, dude? like literally, I was number one. I was the absolute guinea pig. So there's no recommended time. There's no recommended time, but yeah, you feel you should have been there, what, like 2 or 3 years, maybe?
The thing is, man, that if you, in my view, okay, especially for lawyers, it takes a certain amount of time to get good at the craft. Okay. And so if you let's say it takes, whatever, the average lawyer, let's call it 5 years of real practice time, okay, to become a skilled practitioner, okay, where they're not doing everything for the first time. Like for several years, you're doing everything for the first time.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it takes 5 years, okay, of dedicated honing your craft time, and then you live a normal life even for a young lawyer, which young lawyers as a general premise, maybe not anymore, and I'm sure that's false, but especially when I was a young lawyer, it was hard. If you decide to go be a businessman like I did after only a year's time, all of a sudden, some amount of that time of day that you were using to hone skill, you're now using to do what businessmen do.
Keep your business open, right?
You gotta fix the phones, and you gotta negotiate the leases, and you gotta get insurance, and the fucking emails down, and and the lease is up, and and the phone, and your assistant's gonna be out that day, and so unfortunately, you take time away from honing your craft. So like I said, if I could go, and when you're at a big firm, you don't have those considerations. So I remember that I was at a defense firm, and I would get a file, and I would see that we were always defending injuries, and we would send interrogatories, give me the name of every doctor that you've seen, for the injuries that you allegedly sustained in the accident. And they'll tell you 6 doctors. I went to Baptist, then I went to Mount Sinai, I went to, back then it was Health South, okay, for rehab. And then I saw, Dr. Esquives, and blah, 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 blah. And I remember that I would sit there and I would write a note to my assistant. I would say, subpoena all these doctors for copies of the medical records. Okay. And it didn't occur to me to think of the cost of each subpoena. We were a big firm. Okay. And as a big firm, we do that. That's what we do. We bury the other side in paperwork, because now the other lawyer is going to get copies of 6 notices of my intent to subpoena a third party. Because, by the way, if you're going to subpoena somebody who's not in the case, you have to tell the other lawyer. You have to say, hey, buddy, unless you object, I'm going to send a subpoena to Baptist for all your clients' records. Okay? So imagine you're the other side. All of a sudden, you're seeing 6 notices to seek subpoena. That's like 6,000 documents that the defense lawyer is going to get with which to make your life impossible. So what does the good plaintiff's lawyer do? He files what's called a request for copies. So he says, no problem, Rich. Here's my request for copies. When you get the subpoenas back, you got to send me copies. And then we're like, yeah, no problem. I'll send you a bill for the copies. But the point is that a subpoena is like you prepare the subpoena and then you got to pay the process server, and it could be $60. And that's if he serves the guy the first time. Sometimes these small doctors, they avoid these subpoenas like the fucking plague. So you got to send the process server back out there 4 times, and so when I remember when I opened my own firm, the first day I was like, oh, subpoena this shit. And then my wife walks in and was like, so we need a check for these subpoenas. It's like $680 in subpoenas. And I almost had a stroke. I was like, what do you mean? You mean I don't just get to say fucking subpoena here? So, there's that difference where all of a sudden, you start to see the difficulties. That's when I learned how having money gets you the best lawyers in town. Because it's not that you can afford the best lawyers, it's that you can afford to turn on the machinery of justice. And the machine that manufactures justice, bro, is a big machine. Lots of moving parts.
Lots of paper involved.
Yeah. So when you're a young lawyer and you're at one of these big firms, it's like a playground. It's like going into the hospital and being able to play with all the tools, right? As opposed to opening a small practice and it's like there's one stethoscope for the whole office.
Yep.
So it's that's the way it goes. Man.
Interesting podcast. I think whoever doesn't want to lose their license, I think I'll get the gist of it. And again, guys, educate yourself. Try to pick the right company, and good luck in your careers. Anything else, guys? Everybody good?
That's it.
All right, ladies. Thanks, Cadillac. Thanks, Rich.